Parts of New South Wales and southeast Queensland are copping another drenching. So to find out more, we'll go to the experts. Senior meteorologist Angus Hines joins us now from the Bureau. Angus, good morning.
Morning, Emma. How's it going?
I'm pretty well. You must be pretty busy. How much rain have we had so far?
We've had a lot of rain across the eastern states over the last few days, but yesterday, Wednesday and last night and overnight and into this morning it has really picked up, and that's been the wettest spell of the week for most of New South Wales and southern Queensland. Widespread rain really from pretty much right down in Bateman's Bay right up to southern parts of Queensland. Some of the heaviest falls have been around Port Macquarie. We saw over 120 millimetres of rain there in the past 24 hours, and even more just to the south at Lake Katai, about 135 millimetres, but it's also been really wet in Sydney, another 70 millimetres there in what has already been such a wet month so far. I think they're pushing 4, maybe even 5 times the monthly average in Sydney now. Really wet yesterday and overnight in the Illawarra around Wollongong, and some inland spots as well. Up in the northwest slopes and plains around Tamworth it was pretty wet. The Darling Downs in Queensland was pretty wet last night, as well as the Gold Coast on the southeast Queensland coastline.
Okay, so all those areas are already very wet, but how much more rain are we expecting?
Well, yeah, that's the issue really. It has been so wet, but it's another day of rainfall today, another widespread day of wet weather across particularly coastal parts of New South Wales. And this is the entire coast from the very far north up around Tweed Heads right through the mid-north coast, down through the Hunter, Newcastle, Sydney, the Illawarra, down to the south coast, Bateman's Bay area. Could all see another 30 to 80 millimetres today, with some spots getting more than that. I expect we'll see triple figures in a few areas, so that's 100 millimetres on top of what has already fallen in the past few days. Fortunately though, today looks to be the last of the really wet days. Should be winding back significantly by tomorrow morning.
Okay, that is good news, but of course with more rain comes concerns about flooding. What are the concerns there?
Yeah, there are a few areas where there's certainly some elevated concern around flooding at the moment. Let's start off where it's looking perhaps the most significant, and that's the northwest slopes and plains in northern New South Wales. There's a couple of rivers there which are expected to see major flooding in the next few days. So that's the Namoi River and the Gwydir River. They both have major flood warnings in place where those water levels could get up and break the banks along parts of the river. There's also a moderate flood warning in place for the Peel River, which runs through Tamworth, and we're expecting that river level to peak probably overnight tonight into Friday morning. So around that Tamworth area could see some significant flooding. Outside of that, the extra rain around the Sydney area has meant we now have a minor flood warning in place for the Nepean River. We could see other rivers around or west of Sydney potentially also be impacted by flooding in the next couple of days. And more broadly, there's a flood watch, which is basically a heads up that these rivers could still see flooding in the next few days across most of northeastern New South Wales. So almost all rivers from Sydney up to the Queensland border, across those eastern districts, through the Hunter, mid-north coast and northern rivers. So we don't know exactly which rivers yet, based on today's rainfall, could see the most significant flooding. But if you're along those waterways on the east coast there, definitely keep an eye out on the forecasts and those warnings in particular.
Angus, you mentioned that conditions are starting to ease, but when will this system finally shift off the coast?
Yeah, that looks like it will mostly happen overnight tonight. So a really wet day today. And in fact, today, a lot of the rain could come in the last few hours of the day. Perhaps between about 6 p.m. and midnight could be a really wet spell for the east coastline of the country, including around Sydney. But between midnight tonight and about 9 a.m. tomorrow is when we will see the bulk of this wet weather, this weather system, pull out over the water and move away from the country. So as people are going about their day on Friday, maybe a few light showers around, but certainly the heavier and persistent rain will have cleared up, and then we are looking much brighter and drier heading into the weekend.